Hi, I'll be presenting on my milestone presentation for 3D modeling for assignment task 2. So just to recap, I'm creating the front door of my childhood home, and I'll be making it into a pair of books that would hopefully flip open. Yeah, and there's going to be a stained glass panel on the front of that wooden door that's going to be transparent. So the idea that I went with is that it's going to be like a nostalgic place that has like childhood memories and inviting people into the story of the family. And this is the reference for the stained glass section, so Art Deco. This is a reference for the feeling I want to have with the model. And number 3 is the painterly kind of style that I want to take inspiration from in how I'm going to create the textures on this model. So the animation, like I said, I'll be flipping outwards, and hopefully every time it opens and closes, the stained glass section of the model would change into the image of a character, which is one of the family members in my family. That I will have to get on that to figure out how to do that as well. This is where I left off for assignment 1. So some of the things that I trialed was a lot of color testing. I realized that colors are very vibrant in Maya, and things like that looked a lot duller in Photoshop just comes out like blaringly bright, and so I had to dial that down a lot. There's also what I found really useful for bump maps was smart objects, which is basically I can create an illustration in Illustrator and then import it over to Photoshop as a smart object, and I can keep editing it in Illustrator, and they'll automatically update in the Photoshop file. So I realized the best for it also was high contrast, thicker lines on these grill parts of the stained glass. This gradiented depth didn't quite work, it just became really flat. So yes, this is the colors that I had to just tamp down and eventually bring down the vibrancy for because it was just too much. What I found really helpful for a lot of the depth that I wanted to create was painting on the highlights and the shadows on the diffusion map. As you can see, this is like the metallic sections of the handles and such, and that helped a lot. This is another use of the smart object. I could add gradients via like the stroke value within Illustrator and have that already implemented into the Photoshop image. So one of the problems I faced when creating the bump map was that if the resolution was not high enough, it became this really awful pixelated bump that looked really bad on the final. So I think I had to pull it up to 35 pixels per so that it looked a lot more realistic and better. One of the things also I found with the bump map, I played around a lot with it, bump map and specular, is that subtlety was very key for fine details in the Maya texture maps. I think I wanted to have the wood look varnished, and I already thought that this was quite subtle in the varnish that was on it, but it ended up looking wet, so I had to bring it down to this level, and it came out looking quite nice. The other thing I also wanted to have a little bit of imperfection in the wood, and I put this little speckled detailing on the wood, but it came out looking like someone had shot through the wood or like blundered it, and so I had to bring it down to this very subtle speckled design, and then it came out like this. So I'm quite happy with the way this came out, but obviously subtlety was key. Yes, also I had to punch a hole through my original model because I wanted the stained glass section to be translucent or transparent, and that would need to have a space through the opaque area of the door. And so I used the booleans. I figured out how to do that by difference, and ended up pretty successful on that. I had to do it individually though, each section of the door, so that it worked, because I couldn't just combine it. I think it didn't work. Yes, so this was the result of creating that transparent hole section so that the stained glass can go through, and then the hole was there. I also created incandescent like lighting behind the stained glass so that it just looked better than having the material itself, the stained glass itself, be incandescent. I think the color just didn't look quite right. I also gave a lot more depth doing it this way. So how did I figure out how to do some stuff? Obviously, I referenced the video tutorials on Canva to figure out where to put the different maps, as well as how to adjust the bump maps specifically as well. Also, when I punched a hole through the wooden door, the texture maps kind of went really wonky, and it didn't want to work anymore, so I had to go and search that out. I kind of forgot how to do that, so that was good. That was pretty easy to fix. This is the current progress I have. I'll show a quick look within Maya. The shine on it, I'm pretty proud of it, because especially the wood, I think the grain looks really good. And this is the transparent section of it. So what I will do probably next is for the animation of the different character sections, I'm going to try to change the material. Next steps I'm going to do, I've already figured out how to do the UVs for the rest of the diorama. I will have to add the textures on it, finish the skybox, animate the opening and closing of the book with the page flipping, and then finally experiment on the character material, the animation, that method, and see whether or not I can feasibly get it done. Thank you.